Welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast, brought to you by the All About Pigeons nonprofit organization, which is dedicated to promoting education and promotion of the pigeon hobby. Every week, a listener requests to drive our conversations about all things pigeons. Join me, Philip Fry, as we learn and share stories about these incredible birds and this ancient hobby. Today, we're going to be talking about the breed Tippler and the competition of Tipplers. We have with us lifelong Tippler flyer, Chris Reyes. He has been flying Tipplers since he was very young. He is a master breeder through the NPA and through the American Tippler Union. He is a judge of the breed, the past president and vice president of the American Tippler Union Club. He is the current treasurer and secretary of the American Tippler Union. So thanks for coming on and talking Tipplers with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You were mentioning earlier that you've been flying these since you were a kid. And you kind of made mention of your first loft setup. Can you share with our listeners what that setup on the fire escape was like?
Yeah. When I lived in an apartment building in the Bronx, I would take milk crates from the stores and stack them against the wall on my fire escape. And you go to the pet store and grab, what you could afford back then, a couple of birds, and you pair them up with the milk crates. And that's how I flew them out of the alley.
Oh, that's a pretty narrow working space right there.
Yeah, that was back in the 80s.
How did you get started with this breed?
When you first see them, I guess in stores, in pigeon stores, I just like the colors and what they could do when you let them go. These things would just rip, and they'd stay up for hours.
Do you know what goes into making a Tippler? Where does this breed come from?
Oh, it's originally from an English breed, I believe, from England. It's really called the English Flying Tippler. It took several breeds to develop it.
Are these similar to like the high flyer breeds?
Yeah, they're definitely high flyers. I know the Cumulet was used to develop it. The Cumulet is also a high flyer, which I also breed.
With them being such athletes, right? Just the amount of time that they stay up. And when you in the loft with them, are they pretty high energy in the loft, or are they kind of, when they get back in the loft, are they pretty easy to handle and be around?
They're a high energy bird. They're protective of their space. To handle them, so to say, they don't like it too much. Comes, I guess, with everything, it just comes with time. You can, like with any other, you can domesticate anything basically, but they get used to you after a while. They know what the feeding time is. They all come up to the screen. They know, they know, just like a dog would do when it's hungry and they know it's feeding time and go to the bowl.
Right, an empty stomach makes for easy training.
Oh yeah.
So I'm guessing that your loft is a little bit different now. Can you kind of describe what your loft is set up for your Tipplers like now?
Well, throughout the years, I wouldn't care. I would fly them out of a garbage can if I could. But right now, my loft is it's a 24 by 24 one level structure. I have 10 different sections. Each section is about 6 by 5. I also have a separate loft, a little 4 by 4 on stilts.
Why do you have it broken up in so many different sections? What's that for?
I like to breed to the color, the pattern, and I also had different breeds, so I separate. When it's not breeding season. I'll have one half of the loft would be hens, the other half of the loft would be cockbirds.
Oh, okay. And so when it is breeding season, you just pair them into an open loft setup?
Well, I pair them up. I also have separate pairing boxes, and I'll pair up what I want to pair up for a few days, and then that would go into a section where only that color and pattern would be.
How are they when it comes to breeding and raising their own?
Excellent. They're excellent breeders. I use them as fosters as well for the helmets. They're really good breeders. Very protective of their eggs.
Even young ones, young pairs seem to do pretty good raising their young all the way through.
Yeah, as long as you have ample space in your loft, they adapt well. If you're overcrowded, there'll be problems. You have too many birds fighting for one box. It's no good.
Right. How big are your nest boxes for that breed?
I used to have 1 by 2s, well, 2 feet long, 1 foot wide, but I recently changed to a cage setup. Each cage is it's deeper, so it's like a foot and a half deep, and I would say 2.5 feet wider. Wide, I would say. And they're metal cages. They're like finch cages, but it's a whole big setup.
I saw the club had some of the birds at the Grand National Show this year, and definitely had some really striking birds there. What are some of the different colors and patterns that you can get on this breed?
One is the blueprint or stork. Some people call them stork. It's a blueprint. It's a white bird with we call it blue, but it's actually gray with gray edging on the edges of the feather and the outer feathers. And that could come in blue. It can come in like a dun. It can come in yellow. It can come in red. We also have the grizzle. Also, it's a grizzled pattern. It could come in same colors: red, yellow, blue. It could come in black. We also have models. Again, same colors. You also have self birds, which is just one solid color: red, black, yellow. We have like an AOC color pattern, which means any other color. It could be a bird that just has different colors. Like sometimes you have like a mosaic or rare colors. We have rare colors where the bird could be holding a opal, some type of dilute. Pretty much a few. I think we have seven different color patterns.
So you definitely have a lot to play with then.
Yeah, yeah.
You're breeding for colors specifically. What are the colors that you're trying to work on yourself?
I pretty much have every color. I've had reds, yellows, blues, blacks, rare colors, opals, Isabellas, barbirds, pretty much every color. I stick to mainly like the most popular ones are like the grizzles, the prints, and the models. Those are the patterns, and the colors could be like blue, yellow, reds, blacks.
And so this is it's a competition bird, but it's also a show bird. Now, is there any difference between like would you show birds that you actually fly, or is that down the line one is specifically like do they look differently, or is one just for show, one is just for competition?
There's no difference. That it's a flying tippler. What we do is we don't it's not considered a show bird. It's a flying tippler. We exhibit the bird. We exhibit the bird in the shows. What we do is we take our birds. We can fly them. We can still show them. Put them exhibit them. I'm sorry. We try not to use the word show too much because that causes a little bit of confusion. There's no show tippler. There's only the flying tippler, and we exhibit the bird when we go to shows, open shows, or we throw our own shows. We like to promote the bird and its features, its beauty by having these exhibitions where people can see them because every time you go to somebody's loft to see the birds are in the air. The
Right.
bird, yeah, I got 400 birds. Look, they're all the way up there. Look, like you see all the little dots. That's where they're at. The majority of people that I've known growing up in my area in the Northeast, even in the Southeast, fly a lot of stock. We like to fly our birds in stocks. We'll talk 50, 60, 100, 200, 300, 400 at a time to fly in stocks. We like to have other people that are near the area or whatever see that when the stocks hit each other, you can bring down some of their birds, they'll bring down some of your birds. This has been the way I've known it all my life. When I was first introduced to the cages back in 1997, when I started first going to these shows, and you're seeing all type of breeds, and then you see a tippler in the cage, and you can actually admire it and go, oh, wow, look, they're there. They seem to be calm. You could see how they express themselves, their station. You could actually really, really enjoy the bird, and it's great watching them in the sky as well when they're flying, they're cutting through buildings and staying up for all hours at a time. It's just you get the best of both worlds.
So it makes me think about like the flying Oriental roller, where that was a performing bird that also was shown, and then it became more into the show spectrum and less into the performing spectrum. And there are still groups that do fly the Oriental roller, but it's become more show and less performance. So is that kind of what you're doing with, keeping that distinction between the two?
We'll never get ahead of and we don't want to get ahead of the flying aspect of the bird because in our club, 90%, 90 to 95% of our club is flying guys. And it's mostly stock flying. The guys that do enter the show circuit and exhibit the tipplers, it's a handful, anywhere from 5 to 10 guys at a time. And we're a club of like 60.
So there is a breed standard though for the tippler, right?
Yes, there's a breeding standard for the bird, and then there's a show standard as well.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you look for when a tippler is in the show cage?
It's broken down into points, so you have to try to breed to the standard. You have to breed to the size of the bird, the colors, the patterns, certain features. A lot of points that are broken up, but the bird has to be in condition. The biggest points you could get for the bird, the most points you get for the bird, I should say, is for the conditioning of the bird. Once the judge grabs the bird has to be firm, has to be strong. I call it a ball of muscle. Once you grab that bird and you feel how firm it is, how tight it is, it tells you it's a powerful bird. But it's also a small type of bird. It's not a big bird. It shouldn't be a big bird.
Yeah, when I first saw those at the show, I was kind of surprised at how small they really were.
Yes, that's how they keep the endurance. It's always been a small tight bird.
So switching over to the competition side of them flying, can you explain exactly how it's a time thing, right? It's a matter of how long the bird can stay on its wing up in the air, correct?
Yes. So when it comes to the time flying aspect of the bird, there's a time sheet, there's a judging sheet, there's information there. The birds have to be documented. Once they're documented, there's a release time. There has to be someone that's going to observe the birds there. You have a central timer. That person will record every hour on the hour that the same birds that were recorded and released, those are the ones that we've seen in the air. I think the best way to do it is, anyway, in small kits. The smaller the kit, the better. You have a better chance of keeping them together. So the birds have to be seen every hour on the hour. They get documented. You have to have 6 hours to qualify. Once your first bird lands and enters the loft, you have an hour to get the rest of the birds in to qualify and get your time placed.
How many birds go up in the kit?
Minimum is 3 birds. Anything after that, I think it's a 3, 6, 8. It can vary, but I think for the best results is to minimize, it's less to worry about. And then most of the time that I've gone to time people, they've had 3.
So one bird comes in, then you have to have the rest come in within an hour. Do guys use like droppers?
Absolutely. The guys usually have, we call them chicos or droppers. They have like fantails, birds that like to make a lot of noise, clap around, and always stay around the loft. They don't go up too high, so that way the other birds will see them and come down. And it's perfectly fine. It's allowed.
So you're talking about these guys that were doing the stock flying and flying large numbers of birds. So when you're doing that, you're kind of watching and seeing which ones are staying up, and I'm guessing those are the ones that you pull for the days of the competition.
Yeah, you can do that. You can know if you notice some birds that just want to stay up and they want to take off by themselves, and you see them bring 2 or 3 birds with them, and those birds, yeah, you can actually use those birds. People use their best. And you could. There's names out there. There's Levats, there's Shannons, there's Sheffields, the Gordon Hughes. These are all birds that were flown for long periods of time, and people that time fly try to get those birds or descendants of those birds. I believe that if you train a bird to fly in a kit and you know how to feed them and give them all the right stuff they do, you can get good time out of any particular tippler.
What does that feed regimen look like on like competition day?
A lot of guys vary. Different people use different things. Most guys I know, myself included, have used the Purative. It's a special mix, has barley in it, and it helps maintain their weight because weight is important when you, especially when you're time flying.
So you were mentioning some of the different names then. So those are bloodlines and different families of the high flyers or the tipplers.
Exactly. Yes, yes. Those are all different bloodlines and particular names of birds that were imported here, and guys worked them. They did good feed ups with them. They worked the birds. They trained them, and they just by doing that, it's like anything else. You just push them to do that and only that. There were special kit boxes that were made for the birds. A lot of them were kept individually, fed individually. Sometimes they were just kept as kits. If you want to put up 5 or 6 different kits, you only kept those 3 birds together in one side of each section, and then in the other side, the other kit, you keep them separate, and that way when they go up, they're just familiar with each other.
So you're mentioning imports. Where are some of the better tipplers imported from?
England was key. There's other tipplers in other countries, but mostly England.
And what are some of the higher times that you've ever seen a bird stay up in the air for?
One guy that I know for sure was used to be in our club. He passed away recently. His name was Bob Adams. He held the record for a couple of years. He had over 16 hours flying time documented.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mhm.
So when the judges out there, you said so once an hour they're just checking to make sure that the bird is up and it's flying. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so if you're judging, you show up to the person's home, loft, and or wherever, and you like I said, you document the birds. These are the 3 birds that are going up. It's easier now because you have like cameras on your phones, and you could easily take photos of them, write down all the information. The birds let go, and every hour on that hour, you have to check and make sure that they're together. You have, if there's 3 birds, you have to see 3 birds. Whoever's coming to time you will have that paperwork, which we do provide. We jot down all the information. It gets brought back to the club, to the central timer. So if 3 or 4 people went out and they flew for the time for that day, then you compare the times. Whoever let go of the birds and had the longest time is, you get first place, second place.
Do you have any idea like what elevation, like how high up those birds are actually going?
Oh, that's I can't tell you the elevation, but we call it going up to the pins, where the birds go up so high, little tiny pins, and sometimes you can't even see them. They can really go up. They get lost if and there's clouds on that day. Oof.
So do all serious tipplers always have a pair of binoculars when they're flying the birds?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had them people. I've seen people on their lofts with binoculars. Yeah, yeah.
Are there any tips or tricks that you've ever come across that help increase your flight time with your birds?
Diet, diet. If you're gonna fly for time, it's your feed up. It's what you feed them, how you feed them. The diet is very important. That's one tip. The other tip is proper nutrition, vitamins, electrolytes, things of that nature, because it's an endurance bird and it wants to fly. It wants to fly as long as it can, as long as it can. So you can help it out with the proper nutrition, vitamins, electrolytes, all that good stuff.
So I mean, like some of those, like that one guy flying 16 hours. I mean, that bird's flying into the night, correct?
Yes, yes. We what most guys have some sort of light system, and you would have to show up at a person's loft at like 4 or 5 in the morning, somewhere around that time. Right when the sun's coming up, they'll let them. Let's say 5 in the morning, birds go out and they're out and they're out, and now you have sun starting to set. They'll have a lighting system. They'll turn on lights right over the loft. The birds will fly into the night. But like I said, some guys will have a lighting system. They'll have Chicos and droppers to come out, and they'll hopefully they'll bring them down.
I'm guessing you guys probably would like really mild weather conditions. Like you probably wouldn't fly even on like a windy day.
The fly dates are in the artillery. We get them at the beginning of the year. With they have backup dates if weather's a problem, things of that nature. I mean, it can always be worked out.
And what about birds of prey? Because these birds fly really high. Are they above where most birds of prey are? Like, are birds of prey really an issue for you guys?
Birds of prey are absolutely an issue. Kids can not can, but they are oftenly hit by peregrine falcons. The peregrine falcon can chase them up as high as they want and try to hit them and bring them down. Red tails are a problem as well. Hooper hawks. You know, you could be flying your birds for 8, 10 hours, and once your bird lands to go into the loft, the cooper will come out right out of the tree and snatch it. So that birds of prey have always been a problem.
And what age do these birds start, getting up there and flying some decent hours?
The sooner the better. So some guys like Bob Adams, he would have his birds out when they were still they weren't even fully feathered. He'd have them out outside in the screen on top of the loft. He'd have them out there just letting them stretch their little baby wings and getting an idea of their surroundings. He was one of the best at it. If not, I would dare to say the best that I knew.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that stock flying. So, can you talk a little bit more about that? So, you would turn out, and these were all tipplers in these big flocks that you would fly, and then the idea would be to bring in other people's birds.
Okay, so stock flying is a totally different animal. Stock flying is when you release your whole stock, whatever you have, you push it all out, you chase them up. A lot of guys use bamboo poles with plastic bags tied at the end. A lot of whistling, a lot of noise making to push them up as high as you can. Some guys may have 20, 30 birds. Some guy may go up to 100 to 400, 500, even 1,000 birds at a time. So when that type of flying occurs, usually it's in urban areas and there's a lot of lofts nearby. And once that guy sees you go up, he'll run into his loft and he'll push out all his birds. And then another guy do it, so on and so forth. And now you have all these different stocks clashing. It used to happen a lot in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and they would just clash. And sometimes you would bring down other people's birds and they would do the same to you. You could trade them back. You could take them to the pet stores and sell them for feed, or you could just keep them. Depends, guys worked it out one way or another.
Those would just be kind of a mix of different breeds, would they?
Most of the time, it would be a certain breed. You want to push your high flyers one day, so to say. Let's say your flying tipplers, you can push them out. You can go after somebody's stock, or if you have a different breed, you can push those birds out to go after somebody's stocks. The most in the urban areas in Northeast is usually the flying tippler or the flying flight. Those are popular as well when it came to stock flying. So one of the other things we do when we stock fly is what we call checkups. You take your best flyers and you go and you go to another person's loft and say, we're going to do a checkup. You go, okay, so what that person does, the person from the loft will let his birds out, and once his stock's going, you'll bring your birds right to where he's at and let your birds go. And they're gonna mix, they're gonna clash, they're gonna intertwine. But now because you're confident that your best birds are able to rip away from his stock and make it back home to your loft. And that's called a checkup. And that happens a lot. The guys do checkups all the time, trying to really find out what do you have in your loft, the best of your best. Those are the ones you want to breed out of. Those are the ones you want to keep. Those are the ones you want to count on when you let your stock out, that they'll always come back. And sometimes they'll bring other birds with them.
Like, it sounds like it's more like a flock mentality with these big numbers that they're doing over there.
Yeah, we was all about bragging. If I can go and give you a checkup and go home and come back with like 10 of your birds and say, listen, not only did all my birds make it back, but I brought back 10 of yours. It's all in good fun. Now, if you brought back 10 of my birds that went with your birds, I don't want those birds back. I'm like, okay, those are going straight to the pet shop or something, or you can keep them, but I don't want them because that means they're not as smart as I need them to be.
Right. There is a website for the American Tippler, and it's realamericantipplerunion.com. They have some information on there. You can find out more about them and about the competition side as well. But I want to thank you, Chris, for coming on and talking Tipplers. This has been really informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another listener-requested episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. We truly appreciate your support. The soundtrack for the show comes from the pigeon musician Vitel Mizrahi. If you have a topic or a guest you'd like to hear more about in future episodes, or if you yourself would like to be a guest and just talk pigeons, please don't hesitate to reach out to us through email at allaboutpigeonspodcast@gmail.com or join our Facebook page, All About Pigeons Podcast, and connect with us there. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen. It supports the pigeon hobby and really helps the show. Remember, together the hobby thrives, support each other, and enjoy your pigeons.